Hi, children. I hope you're all well, and I hope you've had a really good week so far at school. I hope that you have got some nice plans for the weekend with your family and maybe some friends. It's been a bit cold this week, hasn't it? I've had to put my heating back on. I don't like the cold. I'm sure the sun will make a good return soon, though. So hopefully soon, especially by the weekend, we will start to see the sun appear. So let's jump in to this week's story. I shall bring up my page for you. Here we go. So you can see here a picture of some money. Tell me, if you were walking along the street and you found some money on the floor, what would you do? Might be very tempting to take it, mightn't it? Because if you think about it, you don't necessarily know who that money belongs to. So it's hard to give it back to the owner. So we need to try and find out who it actually belongs to, though, because we shouldn't really take it, should we? And that leads us on to this week's lesson. And this week's lesson is based on the commandment, do not steal. A man in today's lesson thought no one was looking when he stole, but he was certainly wrong. Let's find out what happened. So, God had given specific instructions for the battle and taking of Jericho. The people had obeyed God's instructions and God had won the battle for them, just as he had promised. God's instructions were that everything in Jericho was to be destroyed, except for Rahab and her family, and all the gold, silver, and bronze and iron was to go into God's treasury. And God's treasury is into the care of the people that are true followers of God. So, like a church, and they would be able to take the possessions, and it may be some items, and they might be able to use those items to help maybe some individuals or a family out, or maybe even if it's money, they can find a way to use that money to do good. Okay, so now it was time to conquer the next city, and now I'm going to read from the Bible, and again it's the Children's International Bible, and we are reading from the book of Joshua, and we're looking at chapter 7, and it is verse 2. Okay, so here it reads, Joshua sent some men from Jericho to Ai. Ai was near Beth Aven, which is east of Bethel. He told them, go to Ai and spy out the area. So the men went to spy on Ai. Okay, so this was Joshua's battle strategy, and his actions depended on the spies' report, much like what they did in Jericho. So let's find out what happened when the spies went to go and see the city of Ai. Okay, so again, I'm reading from chapter 7, it's now verse 3. Later, they came back to Joshua and they said, there are only a few men in Ai to fight against us, so we will not need all our people to defeat them. Send 2 or 3 thousand men to fight there. There is no need to send all of our people. So the spies went and they came back with their report. Okay, so we have to be careful here, because when they went to spy on Jericho, they came back and they had said about how big it was. And when they saw that there might have been an issue, they felt like they needed God to help them. So they turned to God and they prayed, and God gave them very clear instructions over what to do. And that led to them being able to take over the city of Jericho. But in this city, which is City Ai, the spies came back and said they only needed to send about 2 or 3 thousand men, much smaller than Jericho. So they're probably feeling really confident that they can win this battle. But they didn't turn to God still. Their self-confidence didn't end up turning to God. They didn't pray about it. They felt quite confident. Confidence can lead to a lack of trust in God because you feel like you can do it in your own right. But things are certain to go wrong for us when we trust only in ourselves and not God. We should always turn to God, no matter how big the problem, no matter how small the problem or the issue. Whether you need God just a tiny bit or a large bit, we should always turn to God. So let's find out what happens. Okay, so we're going to now read Joshua chapter 7, and now we are now reading from verse 4. Okay, so about 3,000 men went to Ai, but the people of Ai beat them badly. The people of Ai chased the Israelites. They chased them from their city gate all the way to where the stones were cut from the ground. They killed about 36 Israelites as they went down the hill. When the Israelites saw this, they became very afraid. So, unfortunately, they lost that battle. And then this is when Joshua prayed. But he was blaming God for the defeat. And we can see that a little bit later on. So again, Joshua 7, okay? And this is verse 7. Then Joshua said, Lord God, you brought our people across the Jordan River. Why did you bring us this far and let the Amorites destroy us? We should have been happy to stay on the other side of Jordan. Lord, there is nothing I can say now. Israel has been beaten by the enemy. The Canaanites and all the other people in this country will hear about this. They will surround and kill all of us. Then what will you do for your own great name? So he was really blaming God. He was not happy. Do you think God was happy with that kind of prayer? No, I wouldn't be either. And let's look at this picture here, and you can see here the battle and how they were chased away from the city, from the people that lived in Ai. Okay. So now we're going to read verse 10 through to 12. Okay. Then the Lord said to Joshua, stand up. Why are you down on your face? The Israelites have sinned. They have broken the agreement I commanded them to obey. They took some of the things I commanded them to destroy. They have stolen from me, and they have lied. They have taken those things for themselves. That is why the Israelites cannot face their enemies. They turn away from the fight and run. I have commanded that they be destroyed. You must destroy everything I command you to destroy. I will not help you anymore unless you do this. Oh dear. So someone took something that God told them that they were not to keep. He told them to destroy it. But the person decided to steal it. So God had warned his people that he would no longer be with them if they didn't get rid of the sin. But they had to find out who was the guilty one and what had he done. God told Joshua how to find the guilty man. So, and you can read this in Joshua chapter 7, and it's verses 16 to 19. Early the next morning, Joshua led all of Israel before the Lord. All the tribes stood before him, and the Lord chose the tribe of Judah. So all the family groups of Judah stood forward to the Lord. The Lord then chose the family group of Zerah, and all the families of Zerah stood before the Lord. Then the family of Zimri was chosen. And Joshua told all of the men in the family to come before the Lord. The Lord chose Achan, son of Camri. Then Joshua said to Achan, "My son, you should tell the truth. Confess to the Lord, the God of Israel. Tell me what you did. Don't try to hide anything from me." So we know that to steal is a sin and it separates us from God. But it also affects other people and they can be hurt by that one sin as well. And that leads us to this week's verse to learn, which is the commandment, which is from Exodus, of do not steal. We can see here. This man, Zachariah, had taken some stuff that he was told, that they were all told to destroy. What had Acron stolen, and why had he hidden them? What had God said should happen to those things from Jericho? And as we have discussed, they were to be destroyed. Achan's sin had affected the whole nation. It had affected the whole nation because they went on to do the next battle, but they were defeated. And we can see here, stealing can cause huge problems. Achan saw, wanted, took, and hid in spite of God's instructions. He forgot God would see. Achan was punished because he disobeyed God. He stole the objects and he lied by not telling what he had done. After Achan was punished and the things he stole were destroyed, God stopped being angry with his people. God knows that we all have sinned by breaking his commands, and he cannot ignore that. But when we trust in Jesus to forgive our sins, God's anger against us is finished. We become part of God's family and we are loved by him forever. So let's have a quick, brief recap. So let's look at this first picture. So the battle in Ai, do we think what happened? The something was lost. Yep, that's right. The battle was lost. Let's look at the second picture. And we can see here Achan and the items from Jericho that God had told them to destroy. So, who can tell me something had been stolen from where? Can you remember? That's the one, from Jericho. Now, let's look at the third picture. So we can see the person who took them, stole them, and that person was punished. Can you remember his name? Yep, it's Achan. And our verse to learn this week is do not what? Do not steal. Well done. So that leads us back to my first question at the beginning. What should we do with the money that we found at the beginning before we started the story? We found some money on the floor. We don't know who it belongs to, but it's also not ours. To take it would be to steal it. So what should we do with it? The right thing to do would be to take it to a police station and let them know that you have found some money. It doesn't belong to you. You are not going to take it and you are not going to steal, but you want the person who has lost the money to be able to find it. And leaving it at a police station is the right thing to do. Perfect. So let's bring it back to my main screen. Brilliant. So that was a really good story, a really good example of why we should not steal. Okay, so as usual, keep an eye out for your worksheets, your verse to learn reminder, songs, and some few other bits along the way. And I do hope you have a great rest of the week. and I shall see you again soon for our next lesson. Until next time, children, see you later. Bye.